voila. After one hell of a hiatus, we're back. You, me, Gematria database, and a whole lot of movies and TV to talk about in the last few months that we haven't covered yet. How are you doing, Gematria database?
I am doing all right.
That's
And
good.
it's great to have you back.
Yeah, well, it's been a hell of an adventure to say the least. Can't say it wasn't without its craziness, but hey, it's my middle name, John.
Indeed.
But I digress. What have you been up to?
Same old things that I do.
Rocking the Vegas scene, are you there, Mr. McFly?
Yeah, a little bit.
Right on, right on. Yeah, man. I hope I can get out there this summer coming up. That'd be pretty cool to come out there and see everything out there. Vegas is one of the places I haven't been. Well, it's one of the many places I haven't been, let's be fair. But yeah, I'd love to check it out.
Cool.
So last time we did a show, we did the mega edition, and we pretty much covered what was it, 6 shows?
Yeah.
Well, I
So
haven't.
we did two times. So like one was 3 and the other was 3.
Right. Two episodes. That's right. And so we got over the dumpster fire that was Picard. Sorry, I know you kind of liked it, but whatever. But we got over the end of the superhero one. Well, 2 of them actually.
Yeah. The boys.
Yeah, the boys was done, and then oh Christ. Oh, Strange New Worlds, which was actually that was a surprise hit for me with Strange New Worlds because I wasn't sure what we were going to get with that.
It was really well done, actually.
Yeah, well, comparatively to everything else on TV, it was a nice change to say the least, and I'm pretty pleased to say though that another surprise was House of the Dragon.
Okay.
I
agree.
was pleasantly surprised that it was. Well, it's funny because it didn't. It definitely has a slightly different tone from Game of Thrones. It's the same, but you can feel the difference between the 2 shows. They kind of started with all they hit the ground running with the with the House of the Dragon. Like they had dragons right at the beginning. They didn't do that with Game of Thrones. They made Game of Thrones kind of almost more medieval in the beginning with just this hint of magical bullshit, right?
True.
And then we didn't get a dragon until the end of season 1, but here we started off, and yeah, I was pretty happy to see Matt Smith do something with his career. If I'm being honest, no, I do miss him from Doctor Who for sure. What were your thoughts on the whole House of the Dragon thing?
Well, I was like, what wasn't to like? I mean, it was like very, had all the things that you got from that franchise,
Mm-hmm.
and like a little bit more, that you weren't expecting, and it was like, drawing to like you want to like binge it type
Right.
of involvement, because it's just like each one blends into the next, and how it interplays, how they change characters, or not change, but like add more, like they change the person that's playing the characters,
Well,
which is
I guess yeah, you got a point there, and I think what that was is it was more of an expression of the time jumps because like they kind of jumped through about what was it 10 years of Rhaenyra's upbringing all the way up to the point where she's finally, married off and having, children. And I think
Yeah, and like
most of the new characters were the children that were being added to the show because they had been born over the course of these time jumps, right? So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they had to they'd show the character, these characters as kids or whatever, and then they'd make them all like, more like adults and give them adult themes and themes.
yeah. I thought it was a bit
It was
jarring.
very interesting with like the guy with the eye thing and it happening as a kid.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, it was
that was
interesting to
good.
see their jump. I mean, it was a little bit jarring at first when we jumped when they changed actresses for Rhaenyra's character. There was a little bit of a jarring kind of a what the fuck, because
Yeah, you're like, wait
I,
a minute, is
I
this
had almost
happening?
gotten used to her, and I could have seen them make her grow up and get older. But I guess in the time scale of production, I guess for them it was just
That
probably
wasn't gonna work.
it wasn't going to work, right? Because apparently the actress that played Rhaenyra, like young Rhaenyra, apparently she doesn't ever want to do fantasy ever again. Like
Something happened.
something put her off, I guess, off of the whole thing. I could just be she could just be a bit pretentious and just like, well, now that I've done fantasy, I just don't need to do that again. It's like I don't know.
Yeah, that could be it.
I don't know. I'm just
I
speculating,
know.
so I don't want to say she did an amazing job. It's too bad because I think she did a great job as young Rhaenyra. Like she was, fairly convincing, and
I wonder if she was told that ahead of time, like, okay, you're only gonna be in the first couple episodes.
yeah, she's like, fuck fantasy. I don't.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like,
No, you only have to do it for a few episodes, and you can be swapped out for another one. Don't worry. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
oh gosh, yeah, but yeah, no, I was pretty surprised. I wasn't sure what I
I
was
don't know
gonna.
the new one or the older version or whatever. It didn't feel like she was the same person.
It didn't
You
feel
know
like
what I
the
mean?
same person at first. Like you had to put it like once you got used to seeing her face, the context
Yeah, you got used
around
to
her
her as
character,
her, but
the context would grow around her, and then you could kind of absorb it and move on. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was
yeah,
definitely jarring at
that's
first.
pretty much what happened.
And they're both pretty good. They're both really good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not even discrediting like the older Rhaenyra actress. She was very good actually. To be completely honest.
I didn't feel like she was the same person though.
No, it didn't feel like the same person. Like the casting. I mean, when they were casting like the physical features, I guess they tried. I guess, but I guess they had what they had to work with, and they made the best choice for the person who could get into the role, I guess, as opposed to who physically fit the look. But yeah, I kind of, you know, everybody else that was, I don't know, like they kept the other broad, whatever her friend, right, with the green
I
dress.
know. I thought that was weird. I thought it was weird that they kept her and they got rid of the other one.
Well,
Like,
I suspect that she was already older and made to look young, whereas they had a young one and made her look old. And there's just a certain break point where it just can't really.
yeah, I'm sure. And with what happened with the characters too, kind of I think interplayed with that.
Right. Exactly. And the interplay, I was very impressed with, like King Viserys. Like, it was interesting to see how George R. R. Martin would actually uh, create this nice king, but he was so flawed. Like he was so nice. He was nice to a point of failure.
Too nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
too nice.
and then he kind of didn't clean his house very well. Like he had people trying to undermine him and talk him into shit he didn't want to do all the time, and he was such a
They realize they can take advantage of his niceness.
exactly and also formulate sub councils underneath him, right? And that was one of the interesting toggles or back and forths, I guess you could say, between him and Daemon, played by Matt Smith. It was rather interesting back and forth because I still never ever got the feeling that Daemon wanted harm for his brother, but still resented him, though. You know what I mean? So he played that off very, very well. Like
Yeah.
when he killed the sea snake, that Jesus Christ, that was amazing. I have to say.
Yeah, why? I mean, they didn't even have to show it.
They didn't show it. They show him walking out with half of his body. He's like, he's bisected, and he just drags him out, and he's like, took like 2 arrow hits and whatever. But I mean, the whole thing was like, that was just a really, really great action sequence, I think. But yeah, no, I mean, like, just to prove to his brother, say, yeah, we don't need your support, we don't need your shit. You know, I can take these motherfuckers myself, and he did. It's pretty crazy. It was pretty wild. And then, yeah, there was always that weird, you know, I don't know if it's a Targaryen thing. It looks like the Lannisters do it too, but that whole incest thing, man. I guess it's the way of royalty, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting that, you know, because they were also showing that, like, worldview and the dichotomy of, like, you know, the rich versus the poor, and how people, like, you know, do the get their lust, like, out,
Right.
and whatnot, like, and kind of showing like a bathhouse type of world, you know what I mean, or like a sex club or something like that, you know, like, that's in the know of the underground in the kind of peasant world, and so you had to, like, look like a peasant in order to get in.
Right.
And what was interesting was he was aware of this and brought her to that, so it was like,
oh, when they went to the brothel, yeah. Which,
yeah.
which, by the way,
That's
if I may interject, just to hold that thought for a second, if I may, I found it weird that they swapped out the actresses because of maybe the more adult nature of the adult version of Rhaenyra, yet I think she did the sexiest stuff, like, in the show. Like,
yeah, I know.
it was so. So I know it wasn't that.
They didn't show, like, anything necessarily. It was all, like, implied.
Yeah, it was very
they
implied.
did other people all around them to kind of, like, balance it out.
Yeah, to kind of build the setting, right?
Well, and also to, like, pay off, like, why you're watching in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, episode 1, didn't we have a nutsack? Yeah.
You take out the brothel, like, scenario, right, and them just getting it on, and it's just too weird.
Yeah. I don't know what it is with George R. R. Martin and wieners, but did you ever see that South Park episode? Wiener, 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 wiener. But anyway, but there's a lot of wieners. It's pretty funny. But yeah, no, the show. I think with George R. R. Martin, kind of, my understanding, anyway, is that he's more directly involved with this show than he was with what's
the previous show.
What's the guy's name? Was it Dan and Derek? Dan and Dumb and Dumber? What the fuck were their names?
On what?
The original guys who were writing the screenplays for Song of Ice and Fire for the Game of Thrones TV show, because they ran out of material. Remember, by season 5, George R. R. Martin still hasn't finished the goddamn book.
I didn't look deeply.
Yeah.
I do remember it, like, being announced around.
It's like Dan Weiss and somebody. I can't remember who, but those guys. I mean, they can adapt. They can write screenplays.
You could always look it up.
Yeah. Somebody gives. Yeah. Anybody watching, go ahead, look it up, fire it up in chat. But hey, Don McDouglas. Hey, how's it going? But yeah, the whole. I mean, the whole problem with that other show was that as soon as they ran out of, like, working material, like, they couldn't write themselves out of a paper bag. And I think it was, like, all up to studio notes and all kinds of other horse shit, right? So
yeah,
it was a little bit of I don't know, it was a little bit of kind of it was a good start, but then they had no way to really understood. I don't even think they understood the source material to begin with. It's almost like they just wanted to get it done because I think they had another offering to do like another show. I can't remember what it was now, but it was another big show, and they were going to be doing that. And they fucked up season 8, so they pretty much said, yeah, no, we're not giving it to you. It's not going to happen. What the hell show was it? Something on some Netflix show, I think. I can't remember what it was now. But I think they just wanted to get it over and done with. It's like, yeah, as soon as we get season 8 done, get that pushed away, and then we'll go do the other thing. And never happened. Was it Star Wars or something? I swear there was something that they were going to do. It was a big production, or not, maybe not Star Wars, maybe a Star Wars series or show or something. I can't remember what the hell it was now. But, gosh.
No, they did do other Star Wars. Like, have you watched Andor at all?
Yeah, I watched the first 2 of those, and jury's still out on it. It almost feels like it wants to.
It doesn't start picking up until like the 4th episode.
Yeah, that's what I've read.
Because what you learn is that it's like the beginning of the rebellion.
Right.
It's not even really about him, Andor. He's just kind of like he meets all these people,
Yeah.
and they're the beginning of the rebellion, and you learn about them, and they're like badass.
Yeah. See,
They're,
my biggest complaints about what I've seen.
Jedi that shows up at probably the 5th episode, I think. He's you don't know he's a Jedi right away. There's like little hints. But he's basically a Bendu. So he's like the in between. He's neither like the light side or the dark side. He's like taking both.
The thing that took me out of Andor, and I'm going to be honest, is just its tone and its look, because it's like it doesn't feel Star Wars. It feels like it's like the
No, it's like fanfare, like backstory stuff of the Star Wars world, not.
Yeah, but it feels like Eastern Promises. It feels like Eastern Promises or some like.
Which is what Rogue One was.
Yeah, but they had guns that look like real guns. They don't look like blasters. Like it's just the aesthetics I found to be too. I don't know, too normal. Like that's what took me out of it. Like as if it wasn't a Star Wars show until what, we're gonna see an AT-AT, it's an AT-AT, oh, lightsaber, they're gonna throw.
So eventually you start seeing like.
Yeah, but like.
It definitely is what it did was it hit, because I really felt the same way like first 2 episodes. 3rd episode starts picking up because there's like another character that introduced it, and when you start seeing first how the rebellion is created through different character development and representation, his story is just like a kind of a side story that is kind of interluded through almost like the hitchhiker, or not hitchhiker, the hitchhiker. Like how the guy goes from place to place and then shit happens around him.
Right.
That's kind of like what Andor is. He's like the hitchhiker.
Right.
Where he goes, shit happens around him, and then you end up learning about those people. And they're very interesting characters, so you shouldn't just knock it until you see the whole thing.
Oh yeah. I'm just saying what took me out of it for the first 2 episodes. I got to watch the whole thing, of course.
I understand. I felt the same way. I was like, how is this anything? Like, I don't understand where I'm supposed to be. Like, why am I caring about this? What's happening here with his backstory being kind of like almost like a Native American mixture of like the tribal people that used to have technology kind of thing. And it's like, okay, I don't understand like how that fits into anything other than just being kind of a world.
They did a lot of similar shit. They did a lot of similar stuff that took me out of it too. The same way in the other series that they just put out with Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was just horrible. Let's just be fair. Like, that was absolutely a horrible.
Again, I enjoyed it. But it was fanfare for sure, and I'm not really a fan. So
Yeah, I mean, okay,
it
okay.
doesn't.
It was entertaining, but it wasn't. It felt cheap. It felt like,
Yeah, it was entertaining.
yeah, it was cheating. Like this should have been.
And it let us see what happened with Darth Vader,
Well, they treated him like a
the
little
part that we
bitch.
didn't know.
They treated
Well, they
Darth
did.
Vader like a little bitch, is what they did. You know,
Well, that's
and
probably
Kenobi too. And Kenobi, they kind of treated him like a dumb guy. He was just a dumb dude, just a dumb white guy. You know, being
that's
told what
basically
being
because
being told
he
what to do
he
by a
was
little girl.
he in that time frame he's not supposed to be using his powers and things like that.
No,
So it's like it's a whole part of the storyline.
no, I get that. I get that. But that seems to be their Disney's play these days with their writers, like their writing staff. It's like, oh, let's just make everybody just a bum and a grifter and just hating on life because now, life has corrupted them. It's like, the same thing like what they did with Luke Skywalker. I mean, like that was just, that's repugnant shit right there. They just completely
Whatever,
destroyed
like I
his
said,
character.
you eventually just like accept that
Yeah.
and move along.
Well, yeah, and then like never seeing Han Solo, Princess Leia, and Luke Skywalker together in the same shot ever again. That's pretty.
Again, that's kind of like what's cool about Andor. It's because it's not about those.
No, I know, but they've already gone and fucked that up. So it's just like, okay, what are they gonna? Whose characters are they gonna mess with next and demean them? You know what I mean? Like Admiral
And there's
Akbar.
always
Look, Admiral Akbar got
there's
fucking.
also a
Look what they did to Admiral
there's,
Akbar.
there's,
They didn't even
there's
get a.
also
He didn't even get a chance to say it's a trap. He's like,
another thing on whatever you call that, Disney Plus, which has what do you call it? The Jedi story or the story of the Jedi or something like that.
yeah, Tales of the Jedi.
Strangely.
I think it's
Yeah, that's it.
I think it's Tales of the Jedi.
And you learn about Dooku and Windu, like stuff that you didn't
Yeah.
know about or see, and probably like from books and shit. Like,
Right.
but it's very interesting. Like
Mace Windu's coming back, buddy. I'm telling you, Mace Windu is coming back.
I'm pretty sure they are. That's why they're put that.
I think Mace Windu he's going to be back and he's going to be pissed off.
He's gonna have like two hands that are robotic.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's gonna be something else. There's another YouTuber. He goes by the name of Star Wars Theory, and he's actually done a fan fiction film. You should check it out. And it's basically it's the return of Mace Windu, and he's coming back for blood. He's coming back to fucking to correct some wrong shit. Yeah. And by the way, my understanding is that Samuel Jackson wants to reprise the role as well. So, yeah, I'm all in on that.
Is there even in their timeline? Because they had like a timeline that they released to like the or like a conference or something.
Yeah, they got like 40 fucking shows coming out in the next 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
I think R2D2 is getting his own show. I don't know.
Probably gonna be called Windu or something like that.
Probably. That's probably a good bet.
Or some shit, and then we'll get like the backstory of him, and that'll open up for actually doing a new, like the return of Windu.
Yeah, just call it Windu. I bet you that's exactly what they're gonna call it. No, not Mace. That sounds like like bear mace or bear spray.
We're talking about Disney here. Come on.
Well, they're not the greatest minds lately. Like, I'm just saying.
I'm that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I think that they would say Mace instead of Windu. Windu would probably be the name, like how they do Andor, but like.
I still,
Andor is his last name.
If Knights of the Old Republic,
no, his first name's Cassian. So Cassian Andor. His last name is Andor.
If there's a live,
and there's a thing for his mother that you gotta see. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a whole thing too. So you have to like learn. It's not about Andor. It's about his like things around him, like his sister, his mother.
Well, fuck, it better be. It better be, because Andor, dude dies. We know how he goes out.
Exactly. And this is like.
So there's no suspense. We know he's not going to die then, because he dies during
But he's
the.
not in the beginning. He's not a rebellion person. He's
Oh
not
yeah,
even
yeah,
involved in a rebellion or anything.
yeah,
So like the second episode is all about his backstory
yeah.
before he ended up where he was at.
That.
So it's like
Yeah,
there's nothing. You got nothing to go on yet in order to see the
yeah.
world view that they like
Right.
created in Andor,
Yeah.
and it's kind of pretty badass
Right.
in my
In
opinion.
no way, in no way do I want to
Six
suggest, by the
episodes.
way, that I don't like the idea of just
It's like a
arbitrary
lot of
story.
acts.
No, I like the idea of an arbitrary story just taking place in that world. I really do like that, and I did like the tone of Andor. I'm just saying it didn't feel like Star Wars for those first couple episodes. Like I said, it felt more like Eastern Promises. Like it felt like
Like I said, I give that to you, and
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know what Eastern Promise is, but
Oh, it's just it's a Russian mob movie, but that's how this felt.
yeah. Well, I think that they probably took from that for sure
Probably
because there was
they
definitely.
borrowed that kind of a tonality and direction. Yeah.
It like it felt like a weird, almost like a
Hmm.
lock, stock, and two smoking barrels type of story.
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? Is he gonna sell drugs? What's happening here?
Fucking, I, I can just see what's his nuts from Breaking Bad. He's like, you're goddamn right.
Oh shit. Anyways, moving right along.
Moving right along. Back to the fucking
Back on
400
the track.
the 400 shows that Disney's gonna put out for Star Wars this year coming up. I don't know how they're gonna pull it off. Like I sense they're gonna reuse a lot of footage or something. You know, do the old Battlestar technique from the 70s. Like just kind of you know, show the same explosions over and over. You know, show the I don't know. They got to start making some
No,
money. I don't know. They're not really generating.
something.
Disney's gonna be going through a bit of a dry spell. I feel because they really gotta. They kind of missed the boat. I
That'll be
mean,
interesting to see.
they kind of missed the boat with the whole Marvel stuff. Like recently, they're kind of shit in the bed. Like that whole She-Hulk thing
Oh, I
was
don't know.
garbage.
Did you see? Okay. No comment. Did you see? Okay, the only reason I probably do like the She-Hulk is because I was already into that character actress or the actor or whatever that plays
Okay, maybe
the
yeah.
She-Hulk because she comes from a really cool story that you should check out, a movie or show. I mean that it's like British show. It's called fuck, what was it called? Hold on, I think. I don't even remember the name at the moment, but if you IMDb her and you look up like what she was in before that, you would see that this is that show, and she plays multiple characters in the show because
Yeah,
it's like a show about cloning,
yeah,
and each clone ends up meeting with each other, and they all like have their own different personalities,
yeah,
and they're very different from each other. So she plays those characters really good. So once you got to the She-Hulk, and was like, okay,
yeah.
it's still her.
I was
It's
just,
like you just
I
you see her as another one of those people,
yeah.
like another sister or something like that,
I'm so
in a
sick
way.
of Marvel. I'm so sick of Marvel, so I just didn't even give it a time of day. It was just like,
But you
yeah.
didn't see it that direction.
I just
Looking at
watched
the
reviews,
stuff.
man. I just watched reviews from people I trust.
Okay.
I I have to admit I didn't watch it myself. I couldn't. I it's like it's not worth the bandwidth.
I don't remember that name. I'll give it to
But
you
no,
later.
I hear
Anyway,
she's a good actress. No, I understand. You know, she is a good actress, but she's only got the material to use what she's working with, right? And like it's just the writing staff at Disney are just not. I mean, it's
I think they're going more kid friendly with that for sure. And even though they're doing like a lawyer thing, it's like obviously that's just because that's how she's written in the comics.
right.
But the but the whole what's that called? Disney, going down kind of thing. Like they just put out what's that called? The Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas episode or whatever, and it was actually pretty good in my opinion.
Guardians of the
I'm not
Galaxy
even
has always been above board, in my opinion. It's like
I'm,
some of the
I'm not
more
even gonna
enjoyable
mention it,
Marvel
but
material.
it is.
Yeah.
Well, then there you go. You'll like it then for sure.
Hmm.
Um, I thought they did a really good job with that. So, but that's going to bring back the franchise. So it's like, if you look at like stocks or whatever, or you look at the e-commerce, and you watch the trend, you can see the repeat like of the waves, how they go up and down and shit.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on.
Well,
So in there's certain people they're demographically designed to associate with. Because if you go on Disney Plus, there's so much shit to watch on that.
yeah.
If you care, then you have like entertainment up the yin. And obviously, each of those things are very programmed, got a bunch of Saturn shit, and very Gematria aligned.
Yeah.
So it's like it's very
naturally,
associated with, sent to certain people that are wanting that material, right? Because usually they're designed from like an early age to accept the Disney programming, and then once they get older, they think that that's what they want.
Right. Or they think that's what they're going to teach their kids.
No, they do end up teaching it to their kids. That's what happens. I've known several parents of Disney people, like people that are they're into Disney because when they were younger, they ended up being into Disney.
Yeah.
And then they teach it to their children. Their children are also into Disney.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, how many households growing up? How many households have you seen where the kids have a whole library? They have a library of Disney movies.
Too deep into research is what happened because growing up watching Disney, I wasn't really into it in the first place, but I was kind of forced family programming because I was, in the work and all that.
No, but like like dating single moms and like hanging out and helping people with their kids and just being around other families. Though volumes of Disney programs would be on DVD libraries, and the kids would just they'd just learn how to use the DVD. They'd watch them. A lot of kids were raised on Disney films.
It's like if you take out the hypersexualism, it would be fine. It's just like they keep that for the purpose of becoming like hypersexualized at an early age.
Yeah, well, they've changed that now with the whole with everything from critical race theory to other other constructs of this woke society. Yeah, well, it's still there. It's not going anywhere for a while.
It's like only those that are in the know notice.
Well, it's starting to turn around in some sense. Like, I mean, we both watched Top Gun Maverick, and that was just fucking awesome.
That wasn't Disney.
No, I know it wasn't Disney, but I'm just saying in terms of in terms of woke culture, it completely avoided that. It even avoided political danger. It didn't talk about Russians as the enemy. They just called it the enemy. They really did a good job of just having a good guys movie about jet fighters, and that was it.
Yeah, because it was essentially a military what's that called, commercial.
Yeah, essentially.
It was basically like for the youth to that probably were forced into watching it because their parents took them.
Yeah.
In order to see what they saw as a kid or whatever when they were watching it as the original or whatever, and they probably showed the original first. Then they went and took them to the movies to show them that in order for these demographics, because it felt like, I mean, I enjoyed it visually and the screenwriting and the cinematography.
Oh, the cinematography was over the top, and there wasn't very much CGI at all. It was
that made me think that it was definitely a commercial for the military, like in order for recruiting and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna push back. I'm gonna push back a little bit.
Into this type of thing and probably has military in their background or in their.
I'm gonna push back a little bit because if that were completely true, then they would have had the newer jets, because then they would have had the complete cooperation of the Navy and the Air Force to use
Yeah, but that's not
newer
what it was
jets.
about. It's
They
about
had to
best.
use older jets because they couldn't get their hands on newer
It
equipment.
was best of the best. It's not about that though. It was about best of the best doing a mission that was pretty much
Yeah, but they're
impossible.
using 20-year-old
They had
jets
the right
still.
person.
Like, even though they had
If they
newer
didn't
jets, they
have
weren't
him,
using
they
F-35s. They
would
were
have never
using.
pulled that mission off.
No, I
It's
get
not
what you're
like they
saying.
could just do that in any day.
Listen, I heard it right from the production manager's mouth that basically they did not have the full cooperation of the military in that sense. They had to use older jets that were, like, out of service. They did
Why?
not
That was
have
part
the.
of the
If
story.
it, I'm just saying, if it were a commercial for the military-industrial complex, as you're saying, then they would have had access to newer equipment. Now, I understand what you're getting at, that it's the best of the best. It's not what the writing was about. But I'm just saying that if it was being put in that context of a commercial, then they would have had access to newer gear to entice young kids to join the Navy. Now, I'm not saying it's not being used for that purpose. I'm just saying that I think they probably just wanted to make a film and probably didn't want to get politically involved, because that's why they had an enemy of undisclosed origin. Like, they didn't really name a country, they just made something up. And like the whole mission, it was just about reconnecting with the old movie, getting us old guys now who loved the movie as kids, get our kids to go see the movie. So I do understand what you're saying. I agree with you to a degree.
Yeah, and then you're supposed to like get in with the whole kid of Goose thing. What's his name? Rooster.
Brewster.
Because he became Top Gun,
Yeah.
and he's basically replacing what you know of as the Tom Cruise version of Top Gun.
Yeah.
So although it's like a reversal because it's the friend son who died. So it's like, okay, so like there's a real, like, unless you didn't see the first one, you wouldn't know about this stuff, and you wouldn't even need to
Right.
necessarily because they don't really show much. But they
They,
give you enough
yeah.
to
They give you just
understand.
enough to know that, like, it was responsible for his dad's
They
death. And
totally took out the whole romance thing, which is good because that was like unnecessary in the first place.
yeah.
But I liked, but I found out why they didn't actually bring her back, right? If you look her up, she's
Isn't
not
she like,
attractive these days.
yeah, she doesn't look very good anymore. She kind of,
No, it's like they,
she fell out of the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way down by the look of it.
but like if you go back and you
I
watch
didn't
the
say
movie,
that.
it's like part of the story. She's actually an older person in the movie. She was older than him. He was a kid in her eyes. Like there was this kind of weird, because he's like early 20s or something, and she was like in her late 30s or early 40s
Yeah, she was a hot
as a
cougar. She was a
as
hot
an
cougar in
instructor.
the
Yeah,
80s.
exactly.
Yeah.
So of course, like she's gonna be like hella old now, you know.
Hella
So
old.
so they give her, so they give him a young person, instead with like a kid and all this, and it's like it's very like turning him into a dad type of thing, without giving it that profile.
Yeah.
But like
She's like, I got better
because
things to do. Bugger off.
but like at least like filling in his story, like whatever happened to him. Oh, okay. No, but it's not really. In my opinion, the movie wasn't really about the Tom Cruise character. He was like a side character.
No. Well,
It was really about the people that were doing the Top Gun
mm-hmm.
and the Rooster character
It,
that
it,
we know from other
yeah.
movies,
It
like
was simple.
Divergent, for instance.
Yeah, it
Which
was
he
a
was a bad guy in Divergent, so it's all confusing.
it was a simple like story. It was simple writing. It was effective to the point, and I don't know. I just thought it was just a well done. Like, you didn't have to go in there with any presumptions,
Well,
any
which
preconceptions.
kind of theater did you go in? Because I went in with like it was like a ride, and it was fucking awesome.
I sailed the seven seas, yar.
Okay, so then you didn't even really experience it. Like
Well, I
you
mean,
need to go to the
I
D-Dock,
had
like
headphones
to
on.
really experience that fucking
I was sitting in front
whatever.
of
I'm
a.
talking about like your feet move to the motion. There's water that flows in your face. There's like things that hit your back when like shit happens on the screen. Like all of these
Well, if you're
things,
in a
like
theater, someone spilling their popcorn or fucking blowing their Pepsi at you from
no,
behind,
it's
that
not
gives
a
you the same
theater.
fucking thing.
It's like a specific style of full motion, like sensory overload, like where you're not just experiencing what you see, you're also feeling it as it's happening.
Mm,
So it's way like when he was doing the G forces and stuff, you felt that.
yeah.
You felt like you were in the fucking cockpit
Yeah.
going with him. It was fucking crazy.
Well, you could tell he
And when
could
it
feel it.
exploded, that the thing started hitting your back and shit, and it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
When he like
I'm
came
too
up
poor to go out of these
the,
I'm too poor to go to these fancy places and see shit.
I'm just saying that's a way to experience that movie. Like if it's not just a visual thing, it's like
Wow.
a whole ride.
And if you guys want to see me see stuff in theaters, join my Patreon. It's in the description below. Anyway, sorry, random plug. I digress.
Nice plug there.
Yeah, you like
Yes,
that?
indeed. Like just random. Anyways, let's go back to again because now we're going off the rails again.
Yeah, we do that, don't we? Tom Cruise is gonna. They're gonna. He's gonna be filming on the ISS. They're gonna take him up to the fucking space station. They're putting a module for like literally. They're putting a goddamn soundstage on the ISS for filming. And I think the next Mission Impossible movie is going to be in space, but like actual fucking space. Like, it's kind of awesome.
I still haven't watched the last one.
Fuck you, Tom Cruise. No, I mean seriously though. Like, that's pretty awesome.
I think that the last one looks pretty good though. So
Yeah, I haven't seen the last. I don't think I've seen the last three. What are they? Mission Impossible 18 now? Like, where are they at?
Well, yeah, I don't even know because like they don't even use like words or numbers anymore.
They don't even. I don't even think they use Roman numerals. They just they just give it a name.
Word. But, yeah, this one.
Mission Impossible, another fucking movie.
Yes.
But I digress. But yeah, man. No, it's been interesting. I do feel that the creativity in Hollywood in general has been very lacking. I don't know if you agree or not, but in the last 3 or 4 years, things have been on this weird downswing, getting more.
I definitely agree.
It's been more about identity politics. I think it's
any good horror out there lately.
Well, yeah, and
although, that said, I did watch X and I did enjoy that.
Yeah.
That was like kind of weird because it was like about old people killing young people. And they were old. I mean, like fucking ancient.
Wow. Well, I think the pendulum is starting to swing in the other direction now, where I think Hollywood is starting to realize that this whole identity politics thing isn't something to base movies or shows on anymore. I think it's starting to sink in that the general public doesn't want to watch shows to be reminded of what their world is like. They watch it for escapism. They watch it to go into another world that's unlike ours, rather than one that just mirrors ours for like virtue signaling. And this identity politics stuff is really, really kind of clouding and muddying the waters of what is just classically good writing. I think the pendulum is starting to swing in the other direction now. We're starting to see a resurgence of good writing and people like not afraid to not check all the boxes. You know what I mean? Your phone's going off. Check. Still with us? I think we've temporarily lost Gematria database, but we had some issues connecting earlier. But yeah, just a filibuster here a bit. Yeah, I think we've seen a kind of a resurgence of some halfway decent writing in a lot of different areas. There have been some good shows that have come out. Like there's been a few that have been out that we've covered in the past to varying degrees, and I'm kind of I'm kind of, I guess you could say, looking forward to seeing what comes next. I mean, House of the Dragon was a surprise. I wasn't sure what to expect with that. Um, I had this funny suspicion it might become this kind of a, I don't know, another virtue signaling escapade, but it didn't. It actually, it was very well grounded in the plot that it conveyed. So I was actually kind of impressed with that. Um, Looks like we lost his connection there, so we'll see if he comes back in. He knows what to do, but yeah, if he doesn't come back in, oh, there he is. I think he's back. There he is.
All right, I'm back. Yeah, I
Nice.
had a phone call. Sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, I could hear your phone vibrating. So
Yeah, it was like it cuts out when that happens. So
oh,
and then it comes back on and it has both people, and so you're like there, but I had to mute myself so because it gets confusing. So then,
because technology.
yeah, then I'd be like saying hello, and then you think I'm talking to you, but I'm actually talking to him, and it's like all fucked up. So
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. I just realized how hot my mic is. My mic is actually auto adjusting because I don't have the auto adjustment feature turned off here in free conference. But yeah, we've been going on about 49
anyway, where
minutes.
were we?
Well, I was just saying that I think the pendulum is swinging in the other direction now, where we're starting to see more competent writing, and people aren't being as pressured to check off
Well, have you?
all the boxes, if you
Okay.
know what I mean. Like like the virtue signaling and stuff. Like that's not what makes a movie. Even
Right.
though it's a component, it still has to serve the plot, as we've always talked, right, in the past. And I think we're going to start seeing more of that. What was the horror movie, or sorry, television show that we were watching there last year? What the hell was that? Or earlier this year, I should say. Um, oh, that was
I don't know.
last
I
year.
was gonna mention another one. That's
No, the one that
uh,
we finished there, the one season was done. The one with the town where they all end up. With
oh
the,
yeah, From. It's called From.
that's it. From. I keep wanting to call it they, but I don't know why they. But from, yeah, I don't know. Well, dyslexia, who knows? But I
Okay.
digress. I like to see what they do. Do you know if they've got a second season coming or what?
I have no idea. That was on like a certain like station or
Yeah,
I mean channel or whatever. It was on its own channel thing
yeah,
called Epic.
right.
So like I don't have Epic necessarily, but like you could watch it through Hulu if you pay for it.
Yar.
Um, but I mean I already watched all the episodes. They give you a couple of them for free, I think at the beginning there, but
Right.
then once you get sucked in, then they want you to
Yeah, then you got to
pay
subscribe
for
and
it.
then pay a monthly fee,
Exactly.
and then it's like
And they want you to go to this other channel place,
yeah,
Epic, that like I guess has shows like that and stuff or whatever, but that was like the draw in
right,
kind of thing. So I never really did that. I just watched that show and then
right,
I'm done. So I don't know if they're gonna come with another one. You have to look that up.
right. Well, okay. Well, let's change the train. Let's get on the other track here. Season 4, man. What we do in the shadows.
Oh
What do
yeah,
you?
we never actually talked about that one.
Yeah, man.
That's
Baby Colin Robinson. What a star, that guy.
Baby Colin Robinson. It was like King Colin Robinson, and you're just like, no, I want you to go back.
I'm sad that he's an adult again. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Because he's back to that like kind of annoying version of himself.
well, he's annoying the whole time, but just as a child, there, like,
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean like
that must have been
like
expensive.
entertaining version of annoying, like where
Yeah.
he just like talks about certain stuff that
Or just starts
nobody
running
wants to
around
hear
smashing
about.
holes in walls, just fucking whack, 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 whack. It's just like,
That was entertaining. That's what I'm
yeah,
saying.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the writers came up with some weird shit that he was like doing, and
But,
then it turned out that it was like
it
a
served the
method to
plot.
it at
It
the end.
served the plot. Like the whole reason for him smashing holes in walls, because eventually he'd find his own room where he'd smash a hole in a wall and find out the shit that he stuffed in there for himself to read and digest, and then become the old version.
And
Oh, it
become
was
him.
brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
It was brilliant. I was like, okay, all right, that's some payoff.
Yeah, it was payoff.
Yeah, I was definitely there.
But then you also said, how old that stuff was. So he's been doing that for years.
Yeah, and just regenerating and just re-becoming himself again.
Like every time he dies and becomes this little kid and grows up, he smashes the wall and finds that, and then becomes himself again.
Yeah,
So it's a weird, like, it makes sense for him to be a vampire in that way.
yeah, yeah.
Like, because you're like, okay, well, like psychic vampires, which is what he is, die like normal people.
Right.
But this gave it an extra, like, storyline that,
Yeah.
okay, maybe they don't just die. Maybe they write diaries that they become themselves again.
Well,
right?
he also got super juiced. He got super jacked at the end of season 3. Like he was feeding off people to excess. Remember, he was just getting jacked, and like basically,
And maybe that's what he does.
that's how he regenerates, right? Right. And then when he died, then
exactly.
Baby Colin crawls out of his chest. It's like what?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
And that's just, and it is just like, you just wonder, like, who watches him in the past, like before before they were there.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like because they didn't know about that, right?
Yeah. So he
In
was
the
new,
storyline,
obviously.
there's got to be some sort of So there's got to be some, but it was in that house, right?
Yeah.
So he's been to that place before.
Well, I rewatched season 1.
It was before them.
Yeah. I rewatched season 1, and in the very first episode, where the Baron comes into town to visit them, to give them shit for not taking over the New World. The New World. Anyway, another conversation for another day. But the whole the whole thing about Colin Robinson, like they didn't even know he was in the room. They go down, oh, let's use this room. And it's like, oh, it's Colin Robinson's room, and it's like, oh, yeah, this has been my room this entire time. And it's like, oh, we'll use a room in the attic, That's where the Stairmaster is, like, yeah, that's some great quotes, man. But, yeah, it was just funny how they didn't even know that Colin Robinson was living in that room. Like, so they knew he was in the house, but didn't even care as to where he was located in the house.
Exactly.
So he couldn't have been there very long. So, I mean, and he's a new addition.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
so where was he before that?
There's like a time frame, before when he wasn't there, but then he was there in the past before they were there. That's what I'm saying. At
Right.
that house, because that's what we learned from the wall. And obviously he's the one who put the wall there after creating all that information.
Yeah.
Because in the end, he's writing another stuff, and then he adds to it.
It's almost as if the manuscript or whatever it is that he read was like a battery, and like all the energy that he had like sucked up like was basically kind of deposited or charged up into this manuscript, and he was able to read that and reclaim the energy from it like it was like a battery store. You know what I mean? Because he wasn't complete.
Yeah, and
he wasn't.
Maybe that's how people could clone themselves and then actually become the person that they're cloned. Because you know how they're always like, oh, how do you get the information from one person to the other? You can't just take a brain and put it in there.
No.
Just because it's the body, it's gonna like accept it. So it's like how do you switch consciousness? Maybe that's a way that you could do it, or they're kind of fantasy style, like showing a way that can be done.
Well, my friend Mary,
the idea of a psychic vampire that regenerates through a younger version of themselves.
Yeah. Well, in real
somehow coming out of themselves,
in real life,
which is
like
very similar to cloning in a way.
my friend, she hit her head and she had like temporary amnesia, but no short-term memory creation for about, I don't know, I think it lasted like almost 30, 40 days. But it was bizarre because every morning that she woke up, like every time she went to sleep, she would reset and she'd be suddenly back to where she was mentally 18 days prior. And it was always back to that point where her long-term memory was cognizant, like where she was cognizant of her long-term memory, and any short-term memories weren't able to be created. So like literally, um, she she had to create a book. Like, well, not create a book. She had to get a book, like a lined paper, and then just write like a journal of everything experienced that day and go back. Like by the time 30 days went by, she'd have to read through like 30 pages of shit just to remember what had happened in her own life. And eventually the injury healed. It was like a hematoma, like in her brain, like cause it was like all swollen. It was like, basically, it was a huge concussion of the worst kind. You know what I mean? And yeah, it took a while for it to heal, but yeah, it was bizarre. It was a bizarre experience to witness that because like I was there every day of it, and it's weird how by reading her own writing, she was back on the same page. Pardon the pun, but she was back on the same page up to that point. And then, she'd continue writing in the journal, and then next thing you know, she'd reset again the next day, and then boom, there's another page or two added to it. Robert's a fucking asshole. I don't, blah 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 blah. Kind of like reminds me a little bit of Memento. Remember that movie?
I was just thinking that while you were telling me about
Yeah,
I couldn't remember the name of the name of the movie, and you just said it, so that helps.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
that was Nolan's second movie. That was Nolan's second movie that he had done, and yeah, I mean that movie. I still think about that movie to this day, and it has even more impact now than ever. So does the movie 50 First Dates.
have you rewatched it? I mean, I haven't rewatched that.
I haven't rewatched
Watch
it.
it after, but I mean, so I've seen it.
I haven't
I
rewatched
still,
it recently, but what I did watch the other day, maybe a week ago, I watched somebody was doing kind of like a recut of the movie, and what they did is, how it had a forward moving plot line that was in black and white, and then it did the reverse storytelling in full color,
in color, yeah.
right? So what he did is he took all of those color snippets, rearranged them into a chronological order, and then intercut all of the black and white footage where it would belong in context of the story. And it was pretty remarkable to see because it's completely different. Like, it's completely different in the way that it's told, and you get a completely different idea of the main protagonist, who's kind of, in a sense, he's actually the antagonist when you really kind of think about it. Like, it's kind of bizarre because, like, the way that Christopher Nolan told that story is that, like, you're only discovering things as the protagonist does discover it. So you're kind of on his side and his condition and everything else. But by the time the movie ends, you realize that really he's just a murderer and everyone's using him to murder fucking people.
Yeah, he's the one that actually instigated the thing in the first place.
Well, he's the one that kills his wife, and he made up the story of what was it? Sam Jensen or something.
He created his own amnesia.
Yeah, there was still that incident. I don't think that.
And then he like, and it's almost like there was like a method to it, yeah. Like where
he created his own reality for sure.
Before he went under his, having his problem, he does the tattoos on himself, right?
Yeah.
But the tattoos are actually lies.
Well, yeah, and
that's why. So it's like he's lying to himself, using the tattoos in order to keep himself from realizing that he's the one who killed her.
Well, I don't think he's the one that killed her. What happened? Well, sorry, take that back. In the incident where he received the brain damage, I firmly believe that incident took place, and his wife was probably attacked also. but she and him probably survived that, and his condition is what killed her in the end. But he doesn't remember
Yeah.
that, or he chooses not to
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
That's what I was leading to. Yeah, exactly. And I think he
Yeah.
uses the tattoos in order to reinforce what he chooses not to believe.
Exactly. And it's interesting
And
because
yours is hitting it from that perspective.
there's a couple points in the film where he's like, okay, I'll make you my John G, you fucking ass. Remember he was talking about Joe Pantalone's character there? And he's like, he's like, oh, I'll make you my John G. And it's like, okay, he just literally told himself a lie, knowing that he's going to forget it, and wrote the information down that this guy is a piece of shit and that he's my John G. And yeah, and if you guys don't know what we're talking about, well, go watch the damn movie. It's friggin' nuts. It's a bit of a mind screw, but great performances by everybody involved in that movie. It was so well done.
Another one like that is a David Lynch film called Lost Highway.
Lost Highway. I still got to watch that. It's such that movie fell off my radar, and I never ever got to see it.
It's not like a big known thing. It's more of like an underground David Lynch film.
Yeah. Well, most David Lynch films.
I only found out about because I was a fan of Marilyn Manson at the time, and I wasn't even a fan of David Lynch really at the time.
Right.
I mean, I knew of his work, and I liked Twin Peaks, but I wasn't like I didn't watch all of his stuff at the time. And
right.
And I was a fan of the whatever Marilyn Manson persona and whatnot, and
right.
And I found out he was going to be featured in a movie or whatever, and I was like, oh, that's awesome! I got to see this, right? And so I got tickets to go see it. It was kind of an underground showing and whatnot, and yeah, it was fucking crazy film. And he's just and the character. I mean, the part that Marilyn Manson plays in the movie, it's just like, it's not even a big scene.
Right.
It's like a couple of minutes or whatever, and
right.
and it's like a side story to what's happening in the story. So it's not even it. So I ended up watching the movie, realizing that David Lynch was doing like this weird story about what happens at the end is at the beginning.
Right.
So you start at the end.
A lot of David Lynch stories are kind of messed up that way.
Where you get there, how you got to the end, which is at the beginning, which
right.
is at the end. So it's like this weird like switch around story, and the story is about a guy to the devil type of thing, but
right.
they don't say that. It's just all interpretive versus like sounds, visuals, and weird like flash photography shit. And you're following one character who in the end becomes another character,
right?
Because of doing the deal. But because he does the deal, he ends up starting over.
Right.
And he does the deal in order to get out of prison.
Well, my first David Lynch. Sorry,
it's a whole thing, and
yeah.
But it's like that whole like what happened. You have to rewatch it because when you get to the end, you realize that he's not that character.
right.
Like you're like, because there's this moment where he's like driving and then
right.
he switches and he turns into another character, and you're like, wait, what just happened there?
Right.
So, and that's when you realize that that's going back to the beginning of the movie.
Right.
Like,
right.
Oh.
Well,
but a lot. Like Patricia Arquette's in it.
Yeah.
Fucking weird ass movie.
Arquette's in a lot of his stuff. She was in Twin Peaks too, wasn't she?
No.
No?
Arquette wasn't in Twin Peaks.
I thought she was.
No, but she was. I think she was in Mulholland Drive.
Mulholland Drive. Okay. My first experience with David Lynch was the movie Dune, and then I read the book.
That technically wasn't his style. Although you have to learn that when you actually get into David Lynch himself, it's like he's not like a director of movies. He doesn't consider movies, or except his own movies.
Right.
They're not like films or movies or whatever. He calls them moving paintings.
All right.
because he's an
Maya!
artist.
Sorry, don't mean to yell at you.
So they're visual interpretations of him painting,
Get out of here.
and
Sorry,
then
the
the
dog.
painting stories become his visual interpretations of his metaphors, which in Twin Peaks was all about like cream corn, you know, weird shit,
Yeah.
but which represented soul, right? But you had to know that in order to
Because
know that.
because
Like,
because
everybody doesn't know why these people are focused on cream corn.
because why not? I mean,
So,
cream corn. It
I
doesn't
mean,
mean
and you have to also
it
see
doesn't
Fire
mean
Walk with
anything
Me in order
else.
to understand that part.
Yeah. There's nothing else cream corn could
No, it
mean.
does. It means the soul.
That's what I mean. There's nothing else it could mean. It's cream corn. It's like this.
It's just weird when it's put in the story of Twin Peaks, and
Yeah.
and most specifically in Fire Walk with Me, which is more
Exactly.
directed at
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
which is very more like a movie.
Hang on a second. Yeah, I'm live doing a show right now. Hey, sorry. Go on. Continue.
I was saying that was Fire Walk with Me is a really good representation of his doing like moving paintings.
Yeah.
What he calls moving paintings. And and if you ever look into his documentaries, you see like he literally is an artist. He does like paintings and
Yeah.
stuff that does move,
I
and very very interesting stuff. As an artist, I find that
Yeah.
fascinating.
Well,
But like,
he's
and
always
then yeah, I became a fan. You know,
he's kind of up
watch
there,
like
like
you know
visually
other
speaking. He's up there with like
other
Sam
things.
Raimi. Like he's up there with Sam Raimi with those types. You know, he's a very visual storyteller, and you know he's also a little bit kind of. He reminds me a little bit of of uh, John Carpenter, in a sense that like they know how to work very well with very little funds, like a little budget. They're able to kind of make the most of it and create a visual treat, if you would. I mean, look at The Thing. Look at like like John Carpenter's earlier work, right? None of it's like super spectacular. I mean, The Thing is pretty goddamn spectacular. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, it's all practical effects. It's all it's all hoses and dummies and like squibs and like it's all really, really, really kind of practical and hands on, and just using whatever you got on hand and fooling the camera with it. And I think that's that's the spirit of filmmaking in a sense, right?
Yeah,
These
well, especially artistic versions.
Yeah, exactly. Which in every case, I mean, we didn't start seeing John Carpenter get bogged down until he started doing like studio films, like when he did like Christine and what was another Carpenter one that he did from Stephen King? Was Firestarter John Carpenter as well? No, it wasn't. No, it was Christine.
No, I don't
No,
think
no.
so.
Well, Red Letter Media just did coverage on Starman and Christine, actually. But there's a couple movies that came after that where you could just tell like he's bogged down by the studio and he's not really doing his thing anymore. Like, like he's more or less obeying the studio notes and like, like dealing with their arrangements. But when he was
Yeah,
more free to do stuff, like he just didn't give a fuck. Like, Escape from New York is a good example. Assault on Precinct 13. There's a few of them. Like when the antagonist just blasts a 13-year-old girl in the face with a freaking with a fucking gun. It's just like, oh, child deaths, great, fantastic. You go, John. But I mean, he's not afraid. Like he's like, it serves the plot. It makes you hate this guy, And then there's a whole, bunch to go along with that. But I mean, would that have passed in a studio-based film? I don't know. Like, who knows? But probably wouldn't have flown well.
yeah.
They probably would have
No.
they probably would have opted to change that. Why couldn't it be a 13-year-old boy instead? You know, like, I don't know. But point is, right, is that like he is kind of all bets are off. Let's do this thing, and he just goes and does it. And that was the thing I respected about both Carpenter and Lynch. And yeah, I mean, you can't really talk to people like that, like unless like if they're doing their thing, you can't really control them. You know, they have a vision, they have a style, and then they want to do it. You know, it's funny because even Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, you saw a lot of the elements from like Evil Dead. Like you saw those kind of like some of those camera shots still kind of got squeaked in a little bit. Like you had some of those like POV shots, and you had some of these other aspects that like oh yeah, Sam Raimi, there you are, you're in there somewhere, you know. But
Yeah.
like I'm more of a fan of like the whole like the Sam Raimi's work. I'm more of a fan of the other work that he's done, like with Evil Dead, you know, all the Bruce Campbell stuff and what have
Yeah,
you.
same here.
Yeah, it's
Even the
pretty
game.
stuff. Hang on, so my go. I don't know why people decide to bug me, but well, it's 75 minutes running. I'm hoping that this turned out well. At least I hope.
Well, it flowed nicely. We got a few, you know, whatever discussions out.
Yeah, we certainly covered quite the gamut because, you know, we're off the rails. We never really talk about any one given thing. And if we were told to talk about one given thing, we talk about everything but. So that's the nature of the show. It's how we roll here off the rails. But yeah, I'll have to fix up the description and pop in the items that we discussed tonight. Anybody that's watching, oh, hang on, Cheesy Truth Seeker says, what's happening, Robert? Long time no see. Awesome to see some content. Hey, thank you, Cheesy Truth Seeker. Appreciate that.
Where is that at?
Oh,
Probably on YouTube. Or
it was on the YouTube chat. I got that open right now. It's the only one I'm looking at. But yeah, guys, for everyone watching and listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Do you wanna close out with anything there, Gematria?
I don't think so.
No?
Thanks for having me as always, and you know it's nice to be back off the rails.
Nice. Well, hey, we get this back on track and off the rails. I mean, it's it's how we roll. But yeah, I'm gonna review this video. I got to see what the quality was like because I'm working with a Wi-Fi signal right now, and hopefully get a wired connection very shortly. But I got to get 100 or 150 feet of Ethernet cable and tie that into a router and wire it up through the house. But that day will come sooner than later, and January. Yeah, January. I should have a fiber connection in here. I gotta wait till till things start to thaw out because the fiber cord, the cable, is actually underground in front of the house. When they rolled it out 3 years ago, they just buried it because the homeowner didn't want it brought to the house. So I gotta wait till the shit thaws out. So hopefully January or February they can get in there and start digging and pull it into the house, and I can get halfway decent fiber, and then I don't have to worry about upstream bandwidth. But until that day comes, we got to deal with what we got. But glad to say I'm no longer living in a camp, no longer living in the snow and the woods. Don't have to cut and chop wood every 2 hours, and yeah, it feels nice to be in a house. And you can't see me right now there, Gematria, but I got a nice black screen behind me. It looks like I'm falling through space. I'm falling through space. Anyway, it's kind of cheesy.
I'll watch the read or I'll rewatch it.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah, you'll see
I
it.
can see myself.
Yeah. well, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and rewatch it too. So, but we won't bore the audience. All three of them. We won't bore them with the technical details. We'll be seeing you again soon. And if this works out well, all the other shows are coming back. The Daily Noonerino, the Truth Hurts podcast, Teb Sucks at Gaming. It's all coming back. You just wait. and don't despair, because we'll be there. All right. I think that's it for
Awesome.
today, and we'll tune in next
Peace
time.
out. Thanks for coming in.